Good evening. In this presentation, I'll be discussing 3 leadership skills which I have exhibited in my role as senior minister of our local church. The 3 skills which I'll be highlighting will be vision, priorities, and communication. For each of these, I will identify what they are, how I exhibited them, and provide an analysis of their use and their effectiveness. My leadership role is a large one within our local church, as I am the senior minister. This means that I am the chair of every committee and have my fingers across what is happening in the broader church and all departments. What it doesn't mean, though, is that I have to be involved in every situation or every decision, every function or every meeting that is held. I need to be involved at the bigger picture end of the spectrum. However, with recently losing some staff and some volunteers, I have had to be more of the feet on the ground style leader. As we discuss the leadership skills below, I will give greater context for each particular scenario. Let's talk about our leadership skill number 1, vision. Recently we reviewed our church vision. In our church we call it our mandate, due to the name of our church changing middle of last year. In the process of creating the new mandate, there was a lot of prayer, a lot of consultation with our church management team. For us, that is our board and our elders. However, I also wanted to ensure that we had a mandate that was actionable and memorable. What do I mean by actionable? Something that we could actually act on and we could see that things were actually happening. Memorable, that people would be able to remember what it is that our mandate is. So to ensure this outcome, I refer to materials such as what Dr. Stephen Fogarty says in his lecture, Vision and Strategic Planning Part 1. It mentions the 6 desirable characteristics for a vision. And they are this as follows. Number 1, imaginable. So it conveys a picture of a desired future. Desirable. It appeals to the values, the hopes, and the ideals of the larger group members. Feasible. So it comprises realistic and attainable goals. 4 is focused, is clear enough to provide guidance in decision making. 5, flexible, is general enough to allow individual initiative and alternate responses in light of changing conditions. And number 6, communicable, can be successfully explained within 5 minutes. So what did I do well, and how could I have grown in that process with that skill? Well, I led the discussions with our management team around the new mandate, and we ensured that what we came up with was indeed actionable and memorable. I felt that I was able to communicate well what God had put on my heart and the scriptural backing for it. I believe that everyone at the table was provided with a space to state their thoughts, their opinions, and together we arrived at our new mandate. What was important is that everyone around the table had a voice and their voice was heard. Everyone got to contribute to the decision. Where I felt things could have improved was going into the meeting a bit more prepared. So by this I mean having all my scriptures ready, having my notes on how to create actionable and memorable mandate readily accessible. Not being fully prepared meant that more time was taken than was actually necessary. Leadership skill number 2, priorities. Recently we have lost some paid staff and some volunteer staff. The flow-on effect from this is acknowledging the increased workload on those left in place and their ability or inability to achieve that extra workload. We're all aware of the Pareto principle, which essentially says that 20% of the people do 80% of the work. It's true in every organisation. The problem was, my 20% was getting smaller and smaller, but yet the workload was still the same as the original 80%. Whilst everything we had on our list felt important, everything was important, had value, but we had to acknowledge that not everything held the same value or importance. So what did I do well and how could I have grown in this leadership skill? Well, for those in leadership roles, I needed to define what was leadership tasks and what was ministry tasks, as taught by Michael Murphy. in Leadership 001. I restricted our team's ministry time, only doing the ministry that only they could do, and focused the rest of their time on the leadership tasks so that would allow them to develop those around them, which in the long run would produce more results. In this process, I've also sat with staff members to assist them with their to-do lists, to ensure that the higher priorities are the ones that are actually being achieved, not just the ones that they can check off quickly or the ones they enjoy doing. Where I need to improve in this process is to check back in regularly with our current staff to see how they are travelling, that they are still feeling fulfilled in their work, that they're not bogged down in administration, they're not doing tasks that can be done by other people. Our third leadership skill we want to talk about is communication. When workloads increase and teams diminish, certain personality types like mine can become task-focused and forget the importance of communication. Due to limited staff and an increasing to-do list, this was a situation I found myself in recently. Whilst not mentioned in John Maxwell's Developing the Leader Within You, it is certainly highlighted in his other books. He has written, leadership role rises and falls on communication. You must be able to communicate to lead others effectively. And Stephen Covey takes it a step further in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He says, communication is the most important skill in life. See, communication is a vital flow of understood information backwards and forwards between two or more people. And that wasn't occurring. So what did I do well and how can I grow with this particular skill? Well, I was leading and I was communicating. I just wasn't taking people on the journey with me. I needed to slow down and make sure that they were coming along with me. I was not hearing what they were saying, the actions and the words behind the words they were saying. I needed to ensure that what I was communicating was being heard and received. In short, I needed to improve my reflective listening skills. But more than that, I needed to take the time to hear what they were saying as well. After all, communication is a two-way street. So in conclusion, whilst it has been a challenging season for our church and my leadership over the last season, I can see that there are a number of steps that we have taken in the right direction and some great scaffolding that we have put in place. But in that same moment, I can easily see the area in which I need to improve. This is not about condemnation, but rather a realization that I am not perfect, nor will I be, but that I should never stop trying to improve. Thank you very much.